Hi, welcome to What's Up, Marci. I'm Marci Brockman. It is Book Talk Sunday. It is Sunday, October 4th, and I am here for something like the 16th or 17th installment of Book Talk Sunday. It's become sort of an ingrained part of my life. I had a lot of trouble today sort of figuring out what book I was going to talk about. Lots of titles. I think I have the next months stacked up now ahead of time. So today I actually want to talk about a play that was written in what year? Let's look. Who remembers? 1990, the year I graduated college. So it was a play written by John Guare, first produced at the Mitzi Newhouse Theater at the Lincoln Center Theater in New York City on May 19th, 1990. 6 years after my sweet 16 to the day. That's weird. It's called 6 Degrees of Separation by John Guare. And I found this play not as a play, but as a movie starring Stockard Channing and Will Smith playing Paul. It was like, I think, his breakout dramatic role. He was fabulous. So it's based on the theory, something that I think about quite often, actually. It's based on the theory that every single other person on the entire globe is connected to every single other person on the entire globe by fewer than 6 moves. So between me and a gondolier in Venice, there are 6 connections, 6 people between us. And the trick is really to find those 6 connections. Like, I can get to Bill Clinton because my Uncle Doug has had an undergrad roommate or friend who was the law school roommate of Bill Clinton. So I could get there in 4 moves. I could get to Hillary Clinton, therefore, in 5 moves. I could get to the President of the United States in 6 moves. Not that I'd want to, but I could. And it's like that with a whole lot of other things. You know, I'm sure I have a former student of mine whose godfather is Paul Blart, the actor. So I can get there in 2 moves. And then I, in 3 moves, can get to any one Paul Blart ever knew, any other actors or actresses that he ever knew. And so it goes. Anyway, so this story takes place in the Upper East Side, mostly, of Manhattan, where we open with a well-to-do couple named Ouisa and Flan Kittredge, and they are art dealers, and they have an apartment like on Park Avenue overlooking the Alaskan Husky in Central Park. And one of their son's friends shows up at the door injured, having just been stabbed and mugged and his briefcase stolen, et cetera, and he claims that he's one of their children's friends who are all at Harvard together. And they take him in and they bandage him up, and he cooks dinner for them. They were hosting a very, very, very wealthy, like, billionaire diamond mine friend from South Africa. And they have this lovely conversation about Catcher in the Rye, which was his thesis. And I always reference this play when I'm teaching Catcher in the Rye because of the insights that he makes with Holden Caulfield and John David Chapman, the fellow who shot John Lennon. And so he has this whole long monologue about J.D. Salinger and Star Wars and Waiting for Godot, and like this whole thing about how the only thing that separates us from the animal kingdom is our imagination. That imagination is what has allowed human beings to do all the things that we've done. And then he reveals that he's the son of the actor Sidney Poitier. And this couple, Fran and Ouisa Kittredge, are like freaking out because they think like Poitier's like amazing, you know. And And so then they go to have lunch the next day or something with friends of theirs. Oh, no, they're at a wedding. They go to a wedding the next day, and they're at the wedding and they're telling the story about how they met the son of Sidney Poitier. And then someone at the wedding was just like, oh my God, so was I, or something like that. Or maybe it was their friend. I don't know. Either way, they meet people who had the same exact experience the night before. And this guy shows up injured and his thesis was stolen. And then they track down somebody else. Oh, they go to the police. The two of them go to the police, the two couples, after having gone to the Strand bookstore to look up the biography of Sidney Poitier to find out that he had all daughters and no sons. So the boy was lying. He wasn't actually a son of Sidney Poitier. And then they go to the police. And then, unbeknownst to them, like a couple of days later, a third parent, a father of a friend, somehow connected to hit all the other kids at Harvard, or at least from their prep school or something. He had hosted this same Paul Poitier guy also, like the day before, like the Thursday. So now we have these three couples or these three families and their kids trying to figure out what they all had in common for this Paul guy to know so many details about them. He knew about their houses and art that they collected and all sorts of personal, what you'd think like minutia kind of details about their lives, which seemed to prove that they were friends of that Paul was friends with their kids. And then they figure out who Paul actually is. And I'm not going to tell you because maybe you'll see the movie or see the play or read the play. I actually read the play with my 12th graders every year. And, it's pretty short. You can see how skinny it is. It's pretty short. But I've actually never seen it on stage, and I would love to. They have in the back of the book the stage set up for how the sets should look and stuff, which I always find that kind of stuff interesting. And even there's a list in the back of the costumes and the props, which I find pretty cool. The play's only 63 pages long. It's pretty short. It's done in one act. And but the biggest thing for me is that scene. I'm making a lot of noise with this book. I hope it's not annoying you. Is that scene with Will Smith where he's talking about the thesis that he wrote on The Catcher in the Rye. It's so great. It's so great. I want to see if I can read you a piece. I borrowed a copy of Catcher in the Rye from a young friend of mine because I wanted to see what she had underlined, and I read this book to find out why it was so touching, beautiful, sensitive, to find out why this touching, beautiful, sensitive story, published in July 1951, had turned into this manifesto of hate. I kind of have to go backwards. A substitute teacher on Long Island was dropped from his job for fighting with a student. A few weeks later, a teacher returned to the classroom, shot the student unsuccessfully, held the class hostage, and then shot himself successfully. This fact caught my eye. Last sentence, New York Times. The neighbor described him as a nice boy, always reading Catcher in the Rye. The nitwit Chapman, who shot John Lennon, said he did it because he wanted to draw attention of the world to Catcher in the Rye, and the reading of that book would be his defense. Young Hinckley, the whiz kid who shot Reagan and his press secretary. If you want my defense, all you have to do is read Catcher in the Rye. So it seemed like time to read it again. Okay, so we borrowed a copy from a young friend to find out why this story, published in July 1951, had turned into this manifesto of hate. I started reading. It's exactly as I remembered. Everybody's a phony. Page 2, my brother's in Hollywood being a prostitute. Page 3, what a phony slob his father was. Page 9, people never notice anything. Then on page 22, my hair stood up. Remember Holden Caulfield, the definitive sensitive youth wearing his red hunter's cap, a deer hunting cap? Like hell it is. If I closed one eye like I was taking aim at it, this is a people shooting hat. I shoot people in that hat. I said, this book is preparing people for bigger moments in their lives than I've ever dreamed of. Then on page 89, quote, I'd rather push a guy out of the window or chop his head off with an axe than sock him in the jaw. I hate fistfights. What scares me the most is the other guy's face. I finished the book. It's a touching story, comic, because the boy wants to do so much and can't do anything. He hates all phoniness and only lies to others, wants everyone to like him, is only hateful and completely self-involved. In other words, a pretty accurate picture of a male adolescent. And what alarms me about that book, not the book so much as the aura about it, is this. The book is primarily about paralysis. The boy can't function. And at the end, before he can run away and start a new life, it starts to rain and he folds. Now, there's nothing wrong in writing about emotional and intellectual paralysis. It may indeed, thanks to Chekhov and Samuel Beckett, be the great modern theme. The extraordinary last lines of Waiting for Godot. Let's go. Yes, let's go. Stage directions. They do not move. But the aura around this book of Salinger's, which perhaps should be read by everybody but young men, is this. It mirrors like a funhouse mirror and amplifies like a distorted speaker one of the great tragedies of our times, the death of the imagination. Because what else is paralysis? The imagination has been so debased that imagination, being imaginative, rather than being the linchpin of our existence, now stands as a synonym for something outside ourselves, like science fiction, or some use for new tangerine slices on raw pork chops. What an imaginative summer recipe. And Star Wars, so imaginative. And Star Trek, so imaginative. And Lord of the Rings, all those dwarfs, so imaginative. The imagination has moved out of the realm of being our link, our most personal link with our inner selves and with the outside world, this world that we share. What is schizophrenia but a horrifying state where what's in here doesn't match up with what's out there? Why has imagination become a synonym for style? I believe that the imagination is the passport we create to take us into the real world. I believe the imagination is another phrase for what is the most uniquely us. Jung says the greatest sin is to be unconscious. Our boy Holden says, what scares me most is the other guy's face. It wouldn't be so bad if you could both be blindfolded. Most of the time, the faces we face are not the other guys, but our own faces. And it's the worst kind of yellowness to be scared of yourself, so scared of yourself that you put blindfolds on rather than deal with ourselves. To face ourselves, that is the hard thing, the imagination. That's God's gift to make the act of self-examination bearable. Just so brilliant. So brilliant. Anyway, I strongly suggest you rent it. It's 6 Degrees of Separation, Stockard Channing, and my mind is going blank, and Will Smith, and a phenomenal male actor. Oh my God, what's his name? Oh my God, his name just flew right out of my head. Anyway, I'll put the link down below the video and, to the IMDb link of the movie, and you can find it. I bought it off of iTunes, but I'm sure it's on like Hulu or Amazon or somewhere also. Anyway, enjoy. This was Book Talk Sunday. Today was a play and a movie, but that's okay. You could read it as a play. It's quite hysterical and quite thoughtful and thought-provoking also. Next week, we're going to be doing some very cool stuff too. So please stay tuned on Sunday. And don't forget, on Tuesday, we're doing our second episode of Ask Me Anything. So if you have questions, send them to me through Facebook, instant message, Facebook instant message, Facebook Messenger. Send me your questions. Good night. Bye. I'm a little crazy. I get it.